We are talking Broncos draft targets on today's show. But a quick PSA, this video was originally posted on our Broncos YouTube channel here at Chat Sports, the Broncos Breakdown hosted by yours truly. So for any Broncos fans watching right now, consider subscribing to that channel as well, but enjoy some trade-up targets for Sean Payton at the QB position. What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown. Coming up on today's show, we're talking quarterback draft targets. We'll talk about trading up for QBs, what it could look like to move up, and ultimately, which quarterback should the Broncos pursue in the draft, because something tells me they might be getting a new starter in 2024. But let's first look at the current NFL draft order, where Denver is not in the top 10. You can see the Bears have 2 top 10 selections, and it's important to look at which teams at the top need a quarterback. The Bears might or may not need a quarterback, depending on what they want to do with Justin Fields. I think the Commanders would take a quarterback. I think the Patriots will. The Cardinals are sticking with Kyler Murray. The Giants are a bit of a wild card. The Chargers are good. I think the Titans like Will Levis. The Jets are good. The Falcons are probably in the market for a quarterback. So there are some QB-needy teams at the top. So Denver will definitely have to make a big splash to jump some of those teams to get the quarterback of their dreams, because the Broncos, as it currently stands, are picking number 14. Now, if they beat the Raiders on Sunday, they, of course, are not going to the playoffs, but a 9-8 record will probably have them finish somewhere around 16 to 19-ish. Number 20 is where you get the playoff teams, and that's right now the number 4 seed out of the NFC, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But as it currently stands, if the Broncos lose on Sunday, finish 8-9, they could slide to number 11. It's hard to say for sure with the Raiders winning, and the tiebreakers in NFL draft order is the opponent's win percentage. It's very bizarre. It's very confusing. So for now, just somewhat pencil in a win, and you pick around 16 to 19, and a loss, you pick somewhere between 11 and 13. So with that being said, let's get into our QB draft targets for trading up, starting with Caleb Williams and Drake Maye, the top 2 QBs in this upcoming draft class, and for good reason, too. Both players have put up phenomenal numbers over their careers. Caleb Williams playing a little bit more than Drake Maye in their NCAA careers, but still, both these guys are 1 and 2, and depending on who you ask, it might not be the same number 1 guy for both for every analyst. But Caleb Williams, Drake Maye are both sensational picks. But if we're talking about trading up for these guys, I think it's important to look at what other trade-ups looked like in previous years. Most recently, we had the Panthers give up a lot to go up and select Bryce Young, right? They swapped first-round picks, so the Bears went from 1 to 9. And Chicago also picked up a 2024 first-round pick, which, as we know now, ultimately became the first overall pick. They got a 2023 and a 2025 second-round pick, and they gave up DJ Moore. So the Bears ultimately got 1 future first, 2 future seconds, and DJ Moore in exchange for swapping first-round picks. So quite the haul, which included a player. So if you want Denver to move all the way from, let's say they even lose on Sunday, just to help out the jump they would have to make from 11 to 1, we're talking about a first-round pick swap, a future first, future seconds, maybe a third, and most likely a player as well, and a premium player like a Jerry Jeudy potentially. But Jerry Jeudy was not as accomplished as DJ Moore was at this point in their careers. Now, what about jumping from 11, 12, 13-ish to 3, right? Maybe the Broncos don't want to pony up that much, although it's not that far off. Like, look at what the 49ers gave up to go up and draft Trey Lance. We're talking about a first-round pick swap at minimum, and then, of course, a third-round pick, and then 2 future firsts. So I look at it as the 49ers gave up 2 firsts and a third to swap picks with the Dolphins. So multiple first-round picks going the other way. And Denver right now has 1 first-rounder. They don't have a second. That belongs to the New Orleans Saints for Sean Payton. They have 1 third-round pick. And then if you look a year ahead to 2025, they've got their first, their second, their third, their fourth. Their 5th went to Miami in the Bradley Chubb trade. So they do have the first-round picks in the future to give up. But ultimately, that's a lot of first-round picks to part ways with. So let me know if you would trade up for Caleb Williams or Drake May. I know that there is a big chunk of the fan base and just football fans in general that go, that is way too much. And hey, right now it's not looking too good for the Panthers giving up all that for Bryce Young. But ultimately, take a moment and go look and see what some other teams did with all the picks they got when they made these blockbuster trades. Like the RG3 trade comes to mind. The Rams really didn't do a whole lot with those picks. So if you know a guy is going to be a surefire thing, I'd rather have that Patrick Mahomes than a couple of first round picks. And I'm sure the Chiefs would as well. But ultimately, Denver did not have a first round pick in 2023. They did not have one in 2022. And if they trade up to get Drake May or Caleb Williams, they will have their 2024 first round pick, but probably not a 2025 or a 2026. We're talking about a 4-year span where 3 out of those 4 years, you do not have a first round pick. Like, that is a tough pill to swallow right there. And I'm not sure if that's something Sean Payton wants to do. Like, I'm sure he wants to get the QB of his dreams, but nothing's a guarantee in the NFL draft. And if it does not work out, well, just go look at the Carolina Panthers right now. They are on a track to be the worst franchise in all of sports, other than, say, the Pistons, over the next couple of years. Now, we'll talk about other QB draft targets in just a moment, but really quickly, support for today's show comes in from Prize Picks. Thanks to Prize Picks, I've had an absolute blast watching football this season, and now I'm enjoying winning up to 25 times my money while watching basketball as well. All you do is just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. So here are my selections for Week 18, which just saying that out loud, sounds so sad. I never want to hear the words Week 18. Week 18 is the worst 2 words in sports. I took the less on C.J. Stroud. It's a playoff game for both the Texans and the Colts. I think the rookie QB might get the jitters. I like the more on Drake London and Bijan Robinson. The Falcons are playing for their coach's future in Atlanta. I'm guessing he's going to go to his star players a lot. And then I like the more on Jonathan Taylor for the opposite reason of why I like the less on C.J. Stroud. It's a playoff game for Indy, and so they're going to go to their star players, and that's Jonathan Taylor. So if you like my selections, just ride with me over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. I went 4 for 4 on Sunday Night Football between the Vikings and the Packers, so don't look now, but your boy's getting hot. Once again, Prize Picks, that's daily fantasy sports made easy. Let's check out some other draft targets now. Jayden Daniels and Michael Penix Jr., 2 longtime QBs in college football who both had sensational seasons, right? Of course, Daniels winning the Heisman this year. But in my eyes, I thought Michael Penix should have won it. If Michael Penix was in the SEC, an undefeated SEC quarterback with those numbers, they win the Heisman over a 3-loss SEC quarterback. But, of course, there is the lefty and Pac-12 bias that some people just cannot get past. But don't be a simp. Don't fall trap for that. Michael Penix, if you just reverse the tape and watch everything backwards as a righty, he looks like one of the best quarterbacks we have seen in a long time. Now, here are some more measurables between these 2 quarterbacks. They both got good frames, 6'3", 6'4". They're both 23 years old, and I know that people are weary of drafting an older quarterback. This is not Brandon Weeden. And I'll also add this, for everyone that goes, I don't know, these are some old guys, look around the NFL right now. Like, the best quarterbacks are playing their best ball as they get older. So I don't think it's a bad thing for have a guy coming in to be a bit mature. And sure, you might miss out on his 21 to 22-year-old days, but it's not like you get good play out of those years anyway. But they both have tons of experience. And I am much more interested in trading up a few spots for Daniels or Penix compared to giving up with the 49ers and the Panthers gave up to get their QBs, which ultimately it's probably too easy to judge on Carolina, but I think we can all agree it was an epic failure in San Francisco. And the only reason why it does not get talked about more is because they got unbelievably bailed out by picking Brock Purdy at Mr. Irrelevant. If Brock Purdy sucks, it's a very different conversation in the Bay Area right now about what a disaster of a trade that was. But ultimately, they found their QB just a couple of rounds later and a few years later, and everything was washed under the bridge. But I am much more interested in pulling off a trade like this one, where the Bears moved up from 20 to 11 to get Justin Fields. Now, the Broncos, if they win on Sunday, they might move up to 16 or 17, but they're not going all the way to 20, right? They're not making the playoffs. So there is a much better chance that it will not cost you as much as it cost Chicago, which gave up a future first and a fifth and a fourth to jump 9 spots. Like if we're talking about Denver going from 15 to 10, 15 to 9, we're talking a first-round pick swap, maybe a future first, but that's it. And it might not even cost you a future first. It could cost you just a couple of day 2 picks. So this is a much more digestible trade for anyone that is weary of giving up the whole farm system for one player. Now, before we get on to the rest of today's video, make sure to subscribe so that you do not miss a thing when it comes to off-season coverage here at the Broncos Breakdown, because it's off-season mode, baby. The Broncos have pretty much nothing to play for in Week 18, so you better believe we are going to be ramping up our off-season coverage. When everyone else is cooling off the jets, we are firing them up. So join our channel and help us get to 20,000 subscribers. Fifth and final 2024 QB target, Bo Nix, the Oregon quarterback who had a really good season in Eugene. Extremely accurate, right? 77% completion, 4,500 yards, 51 total touchdowns. Sneaky good with his legs. If Bo Nix came out in the draft in 2014, he would be a Denver Bronco. Like, this would be a major John Elway pick. Tall, white QB with a big arm, that's our guy right there. But it's not. It's not John Elway's decision anymore, and I don't think Bo Nix is all that great of a quarterback. His average depth of target, meaning how far down from the line of scrimmage was Bo Nix throwing the football, is incredibly low. The guys at Check Down Charlie that had some great weapons in Eugene that made him look and make his stats look a little bit better. But fast forward to the NFL, when you can't just dump it off to your running back who's going to run for 15, 20 yards every single time, and you need to make consistent throws over the middle of the field, which it's not like he never did that in Eugene, but just not enough of it for me to believe he can make that switch going from college to the NFL. I'm not interested in Bo Nix. Now, which QB do you want the Broncos to draft? I'm going to give you my answer in just a moment. But get in the comment section right now. We ran through 5 quarterbacks. I want to know who you want to see Denver select. For me, it's Jayden Daniels. I think you can make an argument that Jayden Daniels might come out of this as one of the best quarterbacks from the class with Caleb Williams and Drake Maye in it. And he's not going to go 1 or 2 right now. I mean, there's a possibility that through the combine and the offseason, his stock dramatically rises. But I think Jayden Daniels is going to go in that 6 through 10 range. It is way easier to go from 13, 14-ish, give or take, to 7, 8, 9, compared to 13 or 14 to number 1. And Jayden Daniels might not be even a step below Caleb Williams or Drake Maye. So we're talking about a similar results quarterback for half the price of what it costs to move up and get him. Give me Jayden Daniels. It would be electric, and it would be a fun offense for the first time in Denver since 2015's offense wasn't even all that fun. We're talking about going back to 2013, 2014 numbers from Denver. The first time in a decade. Give me Jayden Daniels if I'm the Broncos brass. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, if you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you go ahead and do so.